Okay, that'll do it. Thank you very much, everybody, for waiting. Let's start today's media availability with head coach Josh Wolff. As usual, please use the raise your hand function if you want to ask a question. We will go ahead and distribute this call as well as Jean Cominage towards the end of the afternoon. Let's start with Mike Craven, followed by Dennis De La Peña. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Coach, it's Derby week. I was just curious if you could kind of tell us maybe your fondest memories from playing in rivalry games and just kind of what that does to the mood inside the locker room.
Yeah, I think first it's our first ever Derby match. So I think guys were excited about that. I've talked about that yesterday and today. And we had a couple things in trading happen. Players were looking for calls in one of our games. And I'm like, guys, this is what it's going to be like. You got to let this go. I mean, you got to let plays go because that's what it's going to be like. There's going to be physicality. There's going to be intensity. And again, it's our first one of these, but around the league, it's been since I've been in the league, there's a number of fantastic derbies. And as I played abroad, there were some fantastic derbies that I was part of. And it brings another element. It brings an on-field intensity as well as an off-field intensity. And those things tend to merge and start to really spark and drive what the derbies can become. And we hope this one with Houston, as well as the one with Dallas, is full of big moments. And, it starts for us tomorrow, but we expect it to be heated. They're obviously needing points just like we are. And we're the home team and they're a good side. So it's going to be a combative, spirited game. I'm sure of that.
Do you worry about the team maybe being a little too juiced, or do you kind of lean into that?
I think we're going to lean into that more than get too worried about being juiced. We haven't gotten enough points at home, and we can't run from that reality. We've got to continue to compete. This team will come in. They'll be organized. They'll be disciplined. Their physicality is real. Their speed is extremely good. So there are some things that we have to match and also be aware of. But we also know there's some things that we can do that can obviously hurt them. And then we have to do what we haven't done lately is score some goals. And, it'll be a good game. Obviously, we look forward to it.
Thank you, Mike. Dennis De La Peña, go ahead, followed by Chris Bills.
Yeah, continuing that idea, do these, from your time in the league, Coach, do these rivalries, do they just ignite right from the jump, or does it take a few games, maybe a season to really develop?
Yeah, I think there's a naturalness for us to talk about the rivalry because we're in state, but the New York ones have history, the LA ones have history, the Cascadia Cups, there's a number of them around the league that they build up because of the things that happen on the field and off the field. Again, I can't say it enough. Like those things kind of coincide with players, with coaches, with fans. There's so many things that play into it, but there'll certainly be a good intensity to both these games. The fact that we have them back to back is also a really interesting one. We got Houston at home, and then we're on the road to Dallas, where I know our fans will travel in big numbers. And it's going to be an exciting week from that standpoint. And I think all three of us are looking for points, and are more on the outside looking in right now. So there's added fuel to the fire, so to speak. And first and foremost, you want to come out on top of these games, and we need the points. And that's what we're going to be coming to the table with. And we need to put everything into Wednesday, and then we'll see what we're looking at on Saturday.
Yeah, and housekeeping wise, what's Sebastian's availability and also Musa? Anything new with him?
No, there's not. Unfortunately, there's not. I mean, this is what it looks like. I think with green cards and visas and getting that whole side of what it looks like when you're trying to bring players in from abroad is challenging. So it's provided to be, continue to be challenging. So we're not sure when, all his paperwork will conclude, but Sebastian's here in market. We've been training individually with him. The four coaches, myself, we get out there to help go through, a 45-minute hour. He's a fantastic kid, real charismatic, a natural, for me, a real natural leader. He already has good communication with the guys when we're out in the open spaces, and he gravitates to them and they gravitate to him as well, or vice versa. So it's really nice. And he's an intelligent football player, which is a good thing, and he'll help make players around him better. But it's been good to have him around the last 3 or 4 days for sure. And his availability is obviously probably not there for this game against Houston, but we just got to see where he is when he's able to start getting integrated into the team after that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dennis. Go ahead, Chris, followed by John Lupo.
Yeah, Josh, you touched on it there, but like your conversations with Sebastian and how you're working at him in, I know it's a little unique with having to go through this quarantine period. How much anticipation is there for him to get on the pitch and how, I guess just how are you responsibly working him in, given the limitations that you've had to have him work with the group?
Yeah, no, it's a good group. Everything right now, it's a good question. He can't be with the group. So again, our 2 or 3 sessions with the staff is just that. It's creating sessions that are built around how he's going to have a role within our group from, and you're trying to manufacture that to some level as far as what it looks like and build up from midfield, finishing attacks, but really focusing on his individual components that are now going to be necessary for what we do as far as pocket presence, building up from goalie, just little movements in midfield, just trying to bring that to light as best we can in a one-on-one, certainly with the coaches involved, without players. But he's been very receptive and he works extremely hard. And, those things you're appreciative of. He's anxious to get in with the group. He's anxious to play. But he's very aware of how we play. That's what's really nice. He's watched our games. He talks about the games that we played. And there's a very smart, soccer element that he has. And that's part of being a high level player. And then his quality that he'll bring on the field, I think is the next layer. And we hope to get him integrated as quick as possible. There's no doubt about it. But we talk about the game with him when we're around him. We've worked on a few things with a little bit of time that we've had, but we really need to get him in with the group to really see where he's at and obviously bring him into his role.
And then with Danny and Nick, look like Danny's back training in full. What's his availability and how much do you have to limit both of them with 2 matches back to back like this?
Yeah, it's a great point. He's got Nick in for 15 minutes. And again, it's one to get a little bit of a sweat, get up to speed with the game. But, we'll continue to try to get him minutes, either as a starter in this next game or certainly something in the Dallas game. Danny's been involved for the last week or so now in full training. So he should be available for the game tomorrow. And again, it's trying to be responsible with his minutes. Obviously, we'd like to get him as many minutes as we can. But again, he had a significant knee injury that kept him out for 6 or 7 weeks, a couple games, and then another injury. So the last thing we can do is go backwards. But he's been working in a good trajectory. And, we're optimistic that he can find some minutes tomorrow and certainly against Dallas.
Is he ready to start in either or both?
Well, he hasn't played in a few weeks, so to do it in a responsible way is probably our best. We have to keep seeing where he's at. We don't want to put him at risk by any means.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. John, go ahead, followed by Roger Wallace.
Thank you, Mauricio. Josh, when you look at Dallas, what sort of challenges do they present, and what will you guys have to do well in order to be able to beat them?
I haven't taken a big look at Dallas. I'll start looking at them a little bit today, given that we play Houston tomorrow. Our focus has been mostly on Houston, but you do see enough games around the league. They're a good team. They're a technical team. They bring a lot of numbers near the ball. Pepe has been Pepe has, I don't know how many goals. He's done a fantastic job for them. He's scored a number of goals. And for a young player in our league, that's always exciting. It's exciting to see it in the league. Obviously, they're an opponent of ours, but it's good to see young players doing what he's been doing. So we'll do a deeper dive on Dallas in the coming days. But they're a good team. They've had a couple good results. So I think momentum is. As you know, in this league, it can be really quick going both directions. But when you grab points and grab wins, there's a big lift within the team, big morale. So we'll do what we can to take care of business against Houston, and then we'll put our focus on Dallas.
And also, I wanted to ask you, you guys have had some gaps in the schedule where you've had to wait like 9 or 10 days in between matches. Maybe I think there was one point where you had 12 days or 2 weeks in between matches for whatever the reason. Now you have 2 matches within 3 or 4 days and against rivals where you're hoping to establish something. Is there anything you do differently in between the matches, considering the gap is shorter or the gap is longer? And especially now that you have Sebastian here and you talked about Musa last week, trying to integrate them. Is there anything you would do differently between a gap of shorter time and a gap of longer time?
Well, yeah, I think when you have longer gaps, you're able to work a little bit more on yourself and have a little more preparation for the opponent. I mean, we just played, Colorado on Saturday, and now we have Houston on Wednesday, and again Dallas on Saturday. So the preparation in between those games become very delicate and very minimal, just because guys need to recover, and then the guys that didn't play obviously need to get some bit of work, but obviously remain in a place where they're fresh enough if they're called upon to start. So that's kind of what the routine looks like. When you have a larger gap, there's just much more time to prepare and to recover, and to work on bigger elements. When it's a tight turnaround like these, it's really important for us to, be in a place where you're completely fit and fresh and ready to go for this first game. And then we got to take stock of how our guys come out of that game. And some of them now will have played significant minutes in 2 games, and see what you have in the third game. And how do you set that third game up in a way that you have enough freshness, enough quality, and a good understanding of what's coming. And, that's for us. We'll focus. We got some ideas of what it could look like against Dallas, but we got to get through Houston. You just don't know what the game's going to bring. And hopefully everybody makes it through okay from a physical standpoint. And then we'll put all of our focus into the Dallas game. But 2 rival games, and it's exciting. It's the first of this club's existence. So we saw them in preseason, and that was many months ago. But again, it's 2 well-coached teams, and they have I think differing styles. So it'll be nice to see how all this plays out.
Thank you, John. Go ahead, Roger, followed by Mark Turner and Phil West.
Hey, Josh, a lot of the focus has been on guys that are coming but aren't here. As a former player and now as a coach, I mean, they're coming to take somebody's minutes. How do you kind of handle all that? And do you ever sense, some angst with players, or is that a good thing?
It is a good thing. It's a great point. And, we talk about that. I mean, this is, a lot of the decisions of late have been fairly easy, whether that's making roster selection, who's available for the 20 and for some of the starting positions. But when you start bringing back healthy guys and you start bringing in new faces, it should naturally create some angst, and it'll also create some decision-making for us as a staff. But most importantly, it's bringing quality into the group, bringing Nikki back in, and certainly getting Danny up to speed from a health standpoint is important. The little interactions that certainly we've had as a staff with Sebastian has been fantastic. He's got quality, he's got personality, a very professional guy. And again, he will instantly make those around him better. And then for Musa, it's just understanding when he gets here and really being clear about expectations. He will have not played now since May. So we got to bring him in a responsible way and get him up to speed physically and from a conditioning standpoint. And then obviously integrate him into trainings where he's, in a place where he can really help us, whether that's initially as a reserve, but getting him acclimated to the speed of our league, the teams in our league, and most of all our way of playing. But the sooner he gets here, the better. But good to have Sebastian here, and again to have a few more guys that are starting to get a bit more healthy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Go ahead, Mark.
Coach, you talked about a few games this season where teams have put out that low block, either a 5-4-1 or some variation of that, and the difficulty for us for Austin FC, in breaking that down. What can you tell the fans that you guys have been working on this week that will give them confidence that should we face that again against Houston, the team will be better prepared for that scenario?
Yeah. Well, I think Houston will still have a very strong mid to low block. They're a compact team. They play more of a 4-5-1 or a 4-1-4-1, but they do it in a different way. There's a physicality and certainly a compactness to the way that they do it. Again, what we saw against LAFC in Seattle and Colorado is just that. It's a mixed bag of a 5-3-2, a 5-2-2-1, a 5-4-1. And there's not a ton of space between lines. And, what we talked about in all of those games and reflecting on those games was the need to pull people off the back line and run beyond the back line to really change the orientation. But most importantly, disrupt their structure and get in front of goal to score, to get in goal scoring positions. And some of that has to do with probing behind the line to hopefully stretch some of those gaps. But you need runners behind the line. You need, when there's time on the ball, to have guys getting into spaces that will ask questions of the opponent. And there were moments, and I think certainly our initiatives against Colorado were just that. We certainly played beyond the line a little bit more. We got to some decent spots. And again, it's, you know, what can we do with those moments? How often can we make those opportunities count and ultimately get a goal that now will change the orientation of the opponent? And until you do that, they're not going to change. But, you know, I think we've worked on it. We've talked about it. I think there were some good ideas against Colorado, where we had our attacking mids running beyond the line, and certainly, you know, where we positioned our winger and our weak side fullbacks were intended to now give us opportunities to bring them out, but to play beyond their line. And there were some moments where I think it was pretty good, but you know, it becomes challenging. It's, you know, I sat here and watched the U.S. play Qatar, and it's a difficult exercise. It really is, and you need, you know, you need good understanding. You need a little bit of luck at times, but you know, that's part of it. And we got to get better at doing it. We're going to see that. You know, we play in the heat, we play a possession game, and you know, we've also shown the ability to break through teams pretty easily, whether it's build up from goalie or mid block. So teams tend to come here, and we got to be prepared for teams to be sitting and make it really difficult for us in a mid block or low block.
You talked about Musa and the difficulty of bringing players in from overseas and the associated paperwork and so on. It's led some Portsmouth supporters to ask the question, you know, weren't we able to find a number 9 here in the United States? Can you talk a little bit about the difficulty of not being able to bring someone in from here within the US on a loan or whatever it may be?
Yeah, I think that there's things within the league as far as from the budget standpoint as to what these players, when you acquire a player from inside the league, there's what does that acquisition fee look like? What would his budget number be? And bringing a player in of Musa's age and certainly from where he's from, he'll hit the budget, he'll hit the books at a different budget number, which gives you more flexibility within your roster. So those are all the little intricacies. Of course, you can go and try to trade for a player, you know, within the league, and that comes with cost. And then again, they will hit your books at a certain number, which again tends to have a trickle down effect on other options that you're looking at. So or opportunities that you may have in the future. So it's just not as easy as you see a player, go get them. We all wish it was, but you know, it'll be good to get Musa here. Obviously, the paperwork is taking a while, and he'll give us an added dimension. You mentioned, you know, the difficulties playing against 5-3-2s, 5-4. You also need a central presence that has a real goal scoring ability, a different profile. So we've used Manny and we use Johnny and CC, but when you have a guy that you can put balls into the box and you know he's going to come away with some winning some duels and is very strong in the air, it starts to, again, ask different questions. You know, you're able to find different areas of the field because there is an attraction to that player. So, you know, those are things that we're seeing and we're learning about and we're talking about. Not that they weren't things that we thought about before, but that becomes the clear reality of what it looks like when we play against these teams.
Thank you, Mark. Phil West.
Yeah, well, he didn't get the green smoke treatment from pre-court, but Mackenzie Gaines is part of the team now. Can you talk about just kind of his development and how he might be contributing this week?
Yeah, Mackenzie's been it's been nice to have him in. Obviously, another player who hasn't played significantly in a long time. So he's been training with us for a couple of weeks now. And I know he got a few minutes against Tigres, which was nice. He was with us for just a few minutes basically, and we were able to get him in the game. But he's a good kid. He's very vertical, got great speed. And when we do a lot of our small sided stuff, he's got a very quick release, left foot and right foot. So it's those things in and around goal are nice to see. And I think he's integrating well with the team. He had a little bit of an issue with his groin earlier this week. So he's been backed off a little bit. But again, when you haven't played, in a long time, and now the intensity of trainings and the loads pick up, his body's still going to have to grow into that. And, I think part of that is just getting up to speed, again, playing games and certainly going through entire training sessions. But he'll be helpful just from the standpoint that he gives us, again, another guy that has verticality. He's played as a forward as well as a winger. But it's been good to have him in training. He's been out the last day or so, but we look forward to getting him integrated more.
So is the sub appearance possible for either of the Copa matches?
Possibly. It's a good way to put it. Possibly. Yep.
Thank you, Phil. We'll close it off with Chris Bills. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, Josh, something you said kind of sparked this thought, because you were talking about watching Qatar against the U.S. And just one thing that I was struck by watching the U.S., like you mentioned, breaking down a low block, they didn't score a lot of goals in this tournament, but Greg constantly talked about the mentality of the group, and we saw that against Mexico. I guess what is the mentality of this group? What are you looking for more there? Is that, how much can that help break down a team when it's just the will to fight and to win some balls and those types of things over all the tactical things that I know you guys are trying to implement?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's exactly what we talked about today. These games against Dallas and against Houston there's going to be a level of physical. The mentality has to be there. When you're playing against difficult opponents, sure, there's the tactical element that comes into it, but then there's just the will and the belief that you can get it done. Whatever, irrespective of tactics are, again, they are what they are. But the implementation, the actions on the field, the intensity, the recognition of what happened, it's still about players making decisions and having an intensity and then a quality. So again, the tactics are there from a starting point, but now, how the players bring that to life with the physicality, the speed, the mentality that you mentioned is critical, and to stick with it and to persevere. And that's something I talk to the guys about. It's okay if it doesn't come, and right now when it doesn't come, I think there's a little anxiety, there's a little frustration, and rightfully so. We haven't scored and we need to score goals, but you also don't just throw everything out the window and now become completely exposed. So that's a responsibility and a learning that we've been going through. But the mentality is a big part of it for sure. Coming in, understanding what a difficult game it's going to be, how it's going to look, and having clear expectations. And again, this derby games for me right now, it's probably the best thing for us, because you're going to first need to come with some real intensity, because I know Houston's coming in to compete, and their midfield's physical. They got good speed all around the field. And they haven't won, they haven't lost a lot of games. They have a lot of ties. So they're a competitive group, and tactics are part of it, but the element to compete and the desire to win, whether it's individually or as a group, has to be there. Our guys work tirelessly. I'm never gonna, there's never a moment where I feel like that they don't put in the work. Reactions and those things, those are things I'm looking for. Immediately on the field, what's it look like? And being mindful of it. When we have 3 games in a week, the freshness is going to become an issue. But I think tomorrow we should be okay in that department, and we'll just have to see what's left for Saturday.
And then the original thing I was going to ask was about Jean, because we're going to talk to him in a little bit. What's been the biggest difference you've seen with him compared to some of the other younger players that have had issues with, whether it's injuries or just consistency throughout the year? How's he been so consistent and healthy?
Well, I think he came into this having played 17 games already. He was all extremely fit. He was halfway through, for him, not halfway through, but he had some international games. He had some games with his club team already. So he was in a good place physically. And, the league is tough. He's had some tough opponents. I think you can see some of the general fatigue that he's faced in the last few games. His quality I think has slipped a little bit, considering what he's been and what his norm is. But that's not to say he hasn't been good. He's been solid. And our league is a physical league, so he's learning what that feels like and looks like. And we talk about that with him, like his development, his next real big piece in our world is that physicality, the ability to duel, the ability to compete. You have very different wingers that you're facing each and every week. Some guys are pocket players, some guys are straight vertical, some are big, some are small. So, but first and foremost for him, the mentality of what it's going to look like, because technically he's fantastic. Decision-making with the ball is usually pretty good. And again, I think that's what you've seen more lately. As he's tired in some of these games, the decision-making has gotten away from him a little bit. And again, his ability to recover and do this, it's warm out here. So he's been here for a number of months, but this isn't his normal climate by any stretch of the imagination. But he's a good soccer player. He's a super kid, and we got to continue to help him get better. But he's been a pretty solid bright spot for us.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much, Coach. Appreciate your time today. We'll see you